Well, never mind all that stuff because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered. Yeah, I know, amazing. But that means it's time for...
Living your life and you're feeling low. You don't know what is true. You don't know what's true. So you quick flip through the channels to watch Sunny on The View. Oh my god, the stuff she says is dumb. Where the hell they get this woman from? She's a host who's always crass and lame, with lots of nonsense to proclaim.
Mercury isn't causing chaos this time. Sunny Hostin had a full meltdown all on her own. Her teleprompter broke right after Greg Gutfeld gave her a fierce on-air scolding, leading to a dramatic mess that left viewers stunned and tissues in short supply. Only fans of The View might have seen this coming. If you've ever wanted to watch someone unravel faster than a dollar store wig in a wind tunnel, buckle up. When the cameras cut, Sunny said something absolutely wild.
Lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Those hens are always clucking. They get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, and then I get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, except on purpose. But every now and then, one of those dingbats inadvertently says something that reveals modern liberal thought so perfectly it deserves further study. You know, like a weird serpent that washed up on the beach and you want to poke it with a stick.
In just 2 minutes, Greg Gutfeld pointed out more hypocrisy than The View has managed to ignore for over 20 years. A question tougher than, "What's your favorite color?" was finally asked, and Sunny Hostin completely cracked. And this wasn't the usual emotional moment viewers are used to. It was a full-on glitch in a human system, like watching a 4K screen burst into static on live TV.
So, Sunny, I bet you haven't been in a supermarket since COVID for about 3 years.
I haven't been in a supermarket since COVID. For about 3 years. That's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue I think for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs. You know those big bounty towels you don't want to carry.
Those from Costco.
Somebody else goes.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, but at least I tip.
As usual, the host who acts like a legal expert, much like a teenager plays Guitar Hero, super excited, but totally missing the notes, jumped in with strong opinions. Her insight included the idea that facts don't matter if you yell them with enough energy, and that it's always someone else's fault. The View opened with loud agreements, backpats, and the same therapy circle vibe, as the crew claimed once again that they were protecting democracy. One clueless opinion at a time. Just a normal Tuesday.
Obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took...
If you haven't watched The View, just picture a political Facebook comment section full of people who think reading one Wikipedia page makes them experts on the Constitution. Every disagreement is labeled a threat to democracy if it goes against their coffee-fueled beliefs. And Sunny? She's the voice of reason, if by reason you mean yelling loud enough to silence anything else in the room.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children.
Mm-hmm.
To know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Sweet karma kicked in hard when Greg Gutfeld jumped into the ring. things heated up fast. Let's be clear, Gutfeld doesn't show up like a fancy guest at a formal dinner. He's more like the guy who blurts out what everyone's thinking, but no one dares to say. Sunny dropped quicker than a lawn chair in a storm, as Greg calmly exposed her double standards, reminding everyone that sarcasm isn't illegal. Sunny kept calling for civil conversation, even though she recently called half of America goblins trying to wreck the country. Apparently, you can only talk to her civilly if you agree with her 100%. Otherwise, you're practically committing a crime. Sunny's logic is a strange mix of junior high drama and courtroom theatrics. Greg wasn't done either. He brought the receipts, like an auditor digging into every part of her public life. When the government pulled the same move she used to rage about, Sunny called it too complex for regular folks to understand. In other words, yes, it contradicts, but she'd probably put it on a pillow as a decorative quote.
End of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm going to go, slave owner. Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Really? You think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay.
Greg laid it all out in simple terms. Sunny's outrage works like a switch, flipping on when a conservative coughs and off when a liberal crashes into the Constitution. She's the type to demand a moral investigation into someone's old tweets, while defending politicians who couldn't spell ethics if their job depended on it. And how did the crowd react? Exactly how you'd expect. Even if Gutfeld had handed them a scrapbook full of Sunny's biggest contradictions, autographed by her, they would have still called him hateful. Sunny went full TV victim mode, as many are trained to do these days. Before anyone could blink, she turned on the shaky voice and the tears, those perfectly practiced, media-trained sobs. This was her third go at it this year. Gutfeld's clear critique was suddenly transformed into an attack on all women, every racial group, and possibly rescue animals too. Can't win the argument? Just turn it into an emotional battlefield where logic doesn't stand a chance.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect this patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say in The View, because without it, she's got nothing.
More dramatic than a life coach with commitment issues, Sunny was shocked that someone dared to point out her contradictions. She spent years mocking millions of Americans from the safety of her ABC seat. Her co-hosts circled the wagons like they were in a Wild West shootout. Except instead of robbers, they were defending her from basic fact-checking. Even the Olympic-level judges of hypocrisy jumped in to help. Whoopi Goldberg gave a fiery speech, basically saying, "Facts don't matter if your feelings are strong enough." Behind the scenes, producers scrambled to protect Sunny's mental state, as if getting caught lying on live TV wasn't a normal Tuesday for anyone in politics. But no, this wasn't just another day for her. It was treated like a crisis.
Joy Behar gets racism. After all, she's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Bran Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast. So Scott had to deal with Sunny Hostin and her typical self.
While Sunny cried into her fancy coffee, Greg Gutfeld had the nerve to point out her contradictions, and the internet exploded. Minutes later, she appeared in a meme that read, "Strong opinions, weak spying." Then another. "When you realize, receipts don't lie," she cried again. "Turns out when you insult half the country while preaching kindness, even people who avoid politics start paying attention." Gutfeld's straight-up funny takedown of Sunny went viral and hit home for people sick of hearing the same 3 cable news talking points reused like soap opera scripts. His moment wasn't just commentary, it was a masterclass in calling out nonsense. The View looked less like a talk show and more like a live Tumblr argument, just with stage lights and applause. And if you dive into the discussion too hard, you get labeled as aggressive. The routine, pre-planned. The reactions, predictable.
But I like this chick. We didn't think it was the best thing that could have happened to us. Although it did get Joy Behar to wear a mask. people will make me sick. It's funny, her being named Joy is like me being named Ugly.
Even better than the meltdown was The View's bold attempt to spin the whole scandal. It wasn't about Sunny's hypocrisy. Oh no. According to them, just pointing out contradictions now counts as a hate crime. Their new mission? Stopping bullying and protecting women from mean words. But in reality, The View is just a cozy spot for ideas that have never faced real challenges. Sunny Hostin and her co-hosts don't want real debate. They serve up daily pep talks disguised as political commentary. But the moment someone brings irony or even a sprinkle of logic, the whole setup crumbles like a bargain bin bookshelf.
Did you watch the whole thing or just the parts that I sent you?
I watched it. Obviously, just the parts that you said. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless you're stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, would have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. Like, it was not an accident that they had him there on her day off.
Yes.
When she was, presented herself as the, expert on systemic.
As always, when things go wrong, the solution is rebranding. Sunny kicked off her emotional speech about growing up and being brave enough to be vulnerable. Somehow, The View managed to turn what should have been a brutal reality. Check into a feel-good therapy session. Forget the part where she got caught twisting her own beliefs on national TV. It was like watching a Marvel origin story for gaslighting. Gutfeld kept winning, calm and grinning, while the panel called him awful for mocking body positivity just because he pointed out that the Emperor had no clothes. It's a pattern. Every time Sunny tries to climb back onto her moral high, someone reminds her of the moment she totally broke down. And now she's basically a living meme.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say in The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses. Regardless of skin color, people marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist.
If The View really cared about real conversation, this would have been their chance. Maybe bring on some guests who actually disagree. But let's be honest. The chance of that happening is about as slim as Sunny Hostin winning a Pulitzer for political courage. What's more likely? Future episodes will feature deep breathing breaks, emotional support llamas, and a 3-part seminar called Why Feelings Beat Facts. Sunny will keep preaching about truth and virtue while skipping the part where truth actually matters. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld will keep reminding America that the Emperor isn't just naked, he's demanding applause while asking for more screen time.
More time to talk. And I thought Will Smith wouldn't let a black man finish. If her IQ was half as high as her smugness, she'd be Einstein. And later it got weird after Whoopi Goldberg asked a question and Sunny chimed in.